Good morning, students. In the previous class, we studied about the general trends followed across groups and periods of a modern periodic table. In this class, we are going to enter into further details and we will be discussing about some groups and the properties exhibited by them. So, we will start with group 1, that is the alkali metals. The elements present in group 1 are lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium and francium. Students, if you have a look at the electronic configuration of these elements, you will find that all these elements have single electrons in their outermost shell. You can see over here also, lithium has one electron in L shell, that is its outermost shell, sodium 1 in M, potassium 1 in N, rubidium 1 in O, cesium 1 in P and francium 1 in Q. That means we can say that all the elements of group 1 will have one valency, and that is the reason they are kept in this particular group. Moreover, they have one valence electron also, which is also the basic reason for them for being kept in group 1. Students, you can see all these elements contain one electron in its valence shell, and this is the basic reason of why they are kept in group number 1 of modern periodic table. All these elements are known as alkali metals and they react with water to form their hydroxides, which are strong alkalis. And I believe you already know that alkalis are the bases which are soluble in water, or water soluble bases are known as alkali. Occurrence. All of them are very reactive and do not occur in free state. Now, as we all know that reactive metals cannot occur in free state, since due to their high reactivity they are going to combine with the elements present in their environment. For example, if these are kept in air, they are going to combine with oxygen and form a compound. So they cannot exist independently due to their high reactivity. Nature. They are soft and they can be cut with a knife, and they have low melting and boiling point. You all must have heard about it that if we keep sodium or potassium in open, it automatically catches fire, or if we keep it on our palm, it will melt over there. Bonding. All alkali metal salts except some salts of lithium are ionic in nature. Now, due to their high metallic character and ability to freely lose electron in the outermost shell, we all know that they are having only single electron in its outermost shell. So in order to gain stability, what will they do? They will lose these electrons readily and hence form ionic bonds. However, as for lithium, due to its small size, it sometimes forms covalent compounds also. Action of air. They react rapidly with oxygen and water vapor in air. As I told you earlier also, if these elements are even kept in open, they will catch fire. So what do we infer from here? That they have a very high reactivity. Sodium plus oxygen gives sodium oxide. Sodium plus water gives sodium hydroxide. And this sodium hydroxide on reaction with carbon dioxide gives sodium carbonate and water. Due to reactive nature of elements of group 1 are kept in inert solvent like kerosene. Now, since they are very reactive, so to prevent them from getting degraded, what is done? They are kept in liquids like kerosene, which are unreactive with them, because sodium will not react with kerosene, sodium or potassium, and hence they are kept in kerosene. Reactivity of these metals increases down the group. This we have studied in previous class also. Action of water. again they react very violently with water to produce hydrogen, and even the reaction is so violent that, or you can say so exothermic, that it catches fire, or it can be explosive also. Action of acids: they react violently with dilute HCl and dilute H2SO4 to produce hydrogen. You all have studied that metals react with acid to give salt and hydrogen gas, and being highly reactive, all the alkali metals react with acid to produce salt and hydrogen. They form unipositive ions easily, so they are strong reducing agents. Now, we have already studied that the elements which can easily lose electrons are said to be oxidized easily. That means if an element is able to lose electron easily, then it will be very easily oxidized. Now, the substance which readily gets oxidized itself is a very good reducing agent. So, what do we find for these elements? That these elements are very strong reducing agents because they themselves get oxidized very easily. When freshly cut, they show typical silvery white metallic luster, but soon they turn dull because of their reaction with air. All alkali metal salts impart color to flame. Now, suppose that we take alkali metal and burn them in flame, then what do we observe? That if we are burning lithium, we obtain a crimson red flame. That is, the color of the flame will be crimson red. On burning sodium, it will be golden yellow. On burning potassium, it will be lilac color. Alkali metals are obtained by electrolysis of their molten salts. Now, since alkali metals are very highly reactive, so in order to obtain them from their salts, normal displacement reactions cannot be carried out, because what happens in displacement reaction? A less reactive substance gets displaced by a more reactive substance from its salt, but here we are already having higher reactive substances in the salt, so they cannot be displaced by normal displacement reaction method. That is the reason, in order to obtain them, electrolysis is used. Now let us study about group 2 elements, which are also known as the alkaline earth metals. Student, please note one thing. These are known as alkaline earth metals because their oxides occur in earth's crust and their hydroxides are weak alkalis, so they are known as alkaline earth metals. Likewise, we saw for alkali metals that because they readily form alkalis or hydroxides, so they are known as alkali metals. And here, because they are found in, or their oxides are found in earth's crust and they also form alkalis, so they are known as alkaline earth metals. The elements present in this group are beryllium, magnesium, calcium, strontium, barium and radium. As you can observe over here, all these elements have 2 electrons in their valence shell or outermost shell, and this is the reason these elements are kept in group number 2 of modern periodic table. And you can see its electronic configuration over here. As we are moving down the group, number of shells is increasing, but what do we observe? The thing that is common is that all of them are having 2 electrons in their outermost shells. Occurrence: they are reactive metals, however they are less reactive than alkali metals and hence do not occur in free state in nature. Again, though they are less reactive than alkali metals, but still they are very high reactive, and so they cannot exist independently or freely in nature. They also exist in combined form in form of compounds. Nature: they are grayish white in color and harder than alkali metals. Now the hardness of these metals is more than alkali metals. Bonding: all the alkaline earth metal salts except beryllium are ionic compounds. Again, because these are metals, and moreover they have just 2 electrons in their outermost shells which they want to lose readily in order to form a stable compound, or in order to get stable electronic configuration. So what happens over there, they are also ready to form ionic compounds. However, as for beryllium, due to its small size and high nuclear charge, what happens over there, it may form some covalent compounds also. Action of air, they are less reactive than alkali metals. Their reactivity increases on moving down the group. Now they are not so reactive that if we keep them in air, then they will catch fire. However, still they react with air, and their reactivity will increase on moving down the group. That is the general trend followed. One thing is observed with these elements, that if these elements are kept in open, they develop a layer of oxide on their surface due to the reaction of these metals with the oxygen present in air. However, this reaction is not so violent or so exothermic that it may catch fire. Action of water, they react with water to produce hydrogen gas, and this reaction is also exothermic. So metals plus water gives us hydroxide, that is metal hydroxide plus hydrogen gas. Please note down, M here denotes any metal of this particular group. Action of acids, as normal the metals react with acids to generate salt and hydrogen gas, so the same thing is being followed here also. They form dipositive ions. Now in the previous case we observed that they were forming unipositive ion. Why unipositive ion? Because they were losing one electron in order to gain stable electronic configuration. You have already studied this in previous classes, but I am going to just revise this thing for you. Let's consider sodium. We all know that atomic number of sodium is 11. Now since it has one electron in its outermost shell, what is going to happen? Before that, because its atomic number is 11, so we know that it will have 11 electrons and 11 proton, and now the one electron that was present in the outermost shell is getting removed. So how many electrons are left now? 10. But how many protons are left? 11. So what will be the charge over there? Plus 1. That is unipositive charge. Uni represents 1 and plus is positive. However, as for the elements present in group number 2, they have 2 electrons in their outermost shell. Now they lose these 2 electrons from their outermost shell. However, there is no change in the number of protons. Now because 2 electrons are lost, or you can say 2 negative charges are lost, so obviously we have 2 positive charges in excess, which provides it a positive charge. That is, it becomes a dipositive ion. Di means 2 and positive ions. These are also strong reducing agents. As I have already told you that any element which will lose electron will get readily oxidized, and one thing which is getting readily oxidized will always behave as a good reducing agent. Melting points and boiling points are comparatively low, but these are higher than alkali metals. So melting and boiling points of this group elements is low as compared to the elements of other groups. However, they are higher than alkali metals. That means it's not so readily, it's not so easy to cut them with a knife, or it's not like that we'll keep it in our palm and they will melt down. Except beryllium and magnesium, all other alkaline earth metals impart color to flame. Like calcium on burning gives brick red color, strontium crimson color, barium gives apple green color, and radium gives crimson color. They are obtained by electrolysis of their molten salts. Again, because these are ionic in nature, so they can be obtained from their salts by electrolysis. Now let us study about the elements present in group 17, which are known as halogens. Now, as I've already told you in the previous class, halo means salt and gen refers to generator. So these are salt generators. That is, these react with the metals in order to generate salts. So these are known as halogens. The group of halogen contains fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine and astatine, and all these elements have 7 electrons in their valence shell, as you can see over here. Fluorine has 7 in L shell, chlorine in M, bromine in N, and so on. And that is the reason they are kept in group 7A or group number 17 of the periodic table. They are most reactive non-metals and their reactivity decreases down the group. Now this we have already studied in the previous class, that for non-metals the reactivity decreases down the group, whereas for the metals the reactivity increases down the group. So because these are non-metals, so the reactivity is decreasing down the group. For example, it is given fluorine is the most reactive and iodine is the least reactive halogen. There is a steady increase in melting points and boiling points as we go down the group. Fluorine is a gas, chlorine is a gas, bromine is a liquid and iodine is a solid. So what are we observing over here? That as we are moving downwards in the group, the melting and boiling points are increasing. Astatine is highly radioactive and a rare element. The intensity of the color of the element also increases from pale to dark. Fluorine is a pale yellow gas, chlorine is a greenish yellow gas, bromine is a reddish brown liquid, and iodine is a violet solid. These are some of the basic physical properties of group 17 elements. They are all poisonous and have a similar strong, pungent and unpleasant odor. They all form diatomic molecules. Now again, we all know that valency of these elements is 1. So what will happen over here? 2 atoms of same element combine by sharing an electron and form diatomic molecules. Di means 2, diatomic means 2 atoms are combining together in order to form a molecule, and because they are highly reactive, so they exist in form of diatomic molecules in nature. They all have a valency 1 and form compounds with similar formulae. For example, hydrogen chloride, hydrogen bromide and hydrogen iodide. So we already studied about this thing, that they have valency 1 and hence they form similar compounds. They produce a series of compounds with other elements. Chlorides, bromides and iodides together are known as halides. Now different elements can combine with these halogens in order to form compounds of chlorides, bromides and iodides, and all these compounds are together known as halides because it represents, or these elements are in the halogen group. The halogens themselves can react directly with metal to form metal halides or salts, and that is the reason they are known as salt generators or halogens. They all form negative ions carrying a single charge. Now because all of these have 7 electrons in the outermost shell, so they need just 1 more electron in order to complete their octet. Now what will happen? Because right now the number of electrons and protons in the atom is equal, so when they will gain 1 electron in order to complete their octet, what will happen? An excess electron will come on them due to that they will have a negative charge, that is a uninegative charge, and this is the reason that they form negative ions carrying single charge. Now let us come to the last group of the periodic table, that is group number 18, the noble gases. Till the construction of Mendeleev periodic table, there was no clear sign of existence of these gases or elements of this group. Helium was first detected by spectroscopy of light from the sun during an eclipse, and other noble gases were isolated. These gases are referred to as inert gases because they do not react at all. However, after several studies, it was discovered that xenon and krypton have the capability to form certain compounds, and then the name of these gases was changed from inert gases to noble gases. The elements which are present in this group are helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon and radon. And what do we observe over here? All these elements have their outermost shell completely filled. Helium has a duplet, that is, it has only 2 electrons in its outermost shell. Neon onwards all have their octet completed. So what are we observing over here? That because their octets, or you can in simple language we can say that their outermost shells are completely filled, so they are unreactive, or we can say they are very stable. All are colorless, tasteless, odorless gas. They are neither inflammable nor supporter of combustion. Now because they are least reactive, or you can say they are unreactive, so they are neither inflammable, that means neither do they burn themselves nor do they support burning or combustion. They are monoatomic, again because they are unreactive, so they exist independently in nature, that is, they are monoatomic. Noble gases are liquefied with great difficulty. Now being stable, it becomes because they are highly stable and highly unreactive, so it becomes very difficult to compress them, or we can say liquefy them. These gases are slightly soluble in water, and on moving from helium to radon, solubility increases. These gases emit colored light when an electrical discharge is passed through them, and that is the reason we have neon lamps which are used to produce bright light. Their melting points and boiling points are extremely low. Helium has the lowest melting point of any element and cannot be solidified by cooling alone. Pressure is also needed. All these properties point to the atoms of the noble gases being particularly stable, as I told you earlier also. The uses of noble gases depend on their unreactive nature. Helium is used in airships and balloons because it is light and unreactive. Argon is used to fill light bulbs because it will not react with filament even at high temperatures. Now see what happens. The filament, if suppose that in bulbs air is filled or normal air is filled, so when the filament is producing light, it is because of the high resistance of it, and because of the high heat that will be produced over there, what will happen? It will react with the air present over there and get oxidized. So in order to prevent the filament from burning, what is done over there, or getting destroyed, what is done over there? It is the empty space in the bulb is filled with argon gas. Argon being unreactive does not affect the filament. The best known use of noble gases is perhaps in use in neon lights. The brightly colored advertising light works when an electric discharge is passed in a tube containing a little of a noble gas. Different gases impart different colors. Now the lamps over here, or the neon lamps, are used in glow shine boards and all. Note, the element of group 18 are between the two most reactive group of element, that is, they lie between group number 17 and group number 1 of the periodic table. Indeed, it is their closeness to these groups with stable electron arrangements that make the alkali metals and the halogens so reactive, because both halogens and alkali metals want to attain the stable gas configuration, or you can say they want to attain the stable configuration in order to gain stability like noble gases. The group 17 elements gain or share an electron, while group first element lose an electron to achieve a noble gas electron arrangement. Now let's come to the last topic of the chapter, that is uses of periodic table. Periodic table has been useful in predicting the existence of new elements, that is, the trends and the properties which are being followed over here have promoted for the discovery of new element. It has been useful in the past in correcting properties of elements, as we witnessed in this chapter itself, that with the development of new theories relating to periodic table, there has been number of corrections in the predicted, or you can say existing property or known properties of certain elements. Study of elements and their compounds has become systematic and easier to remember. Position of an element in the periodic table reveals its atomic number, electronic configuration, number of valence electrons and properties. That is, if we know how to study a periodic table, or if we have a periodic table, then it becomes very easy to know the atomic number, electronic configuration, number of valence electrons and several properties of elements. Nature of chemical bond, formula of compound formed and the properties of compound can all be predicted from the periodic table. So this last point also we were discussing the same thing, that with periodic table it has become really easier in order to predict the properties of element. For example, elements present in group number 1, 2 and 3 are metals. They lose electrons to form positive ions, while elements of group 15, 16 and 17 are non-metals. They gain electron to form negative ions. When these positive and negative ions combine together, they form compounds, that is electrovalent in nature, because they are forming compounds by exchange of electrons. If elements of group 14, 15 and 16 combine with those of 15, 16 and 17, non-metals combine with non-metals to form a covalent bond among themselves. Position of an element in the periodic table reveals valency of the element, whether the element is a metal or a non-metal. These things we have already studied over this particular chapter. Metals occupy the extreme left position at the bottom of the periodic table, while non-metals are at the extreme right of the periodic table. Thank you.